You don't have to put on the red light. So I had one. Instagram gave me 1 day, and then they banned me from live streaming again, which is fine. Because I called someone. There's this like Indian guy who I blocked on my last account, and he did some trolly thing, and I called him. He was like slightly overweight Indian looking guy. I called him a packy porker. I like the alliteration of that, but Instagram didn't like the term packy porker. I like it. I think more people should use that term, packy porker, because you don't really see a lot of overweight Pakistani kind of Indian descent. They're usually pretty thin, pretty fit, very graceful. So when you see a pudgy one, you want to make it known. So yeah, unauthorized J-Buy. Yeah, I'm unauthorized. I'm excited about that. I got all the info. So if you guys didn't register or sign up yet, go over to unauthorized.tv and pick Jim Bob and sign up for whatever amount. I don't know how it works. I think it's like $5 and you get everything. So that's pretty obviously an awesome deal. Again, many of you have already signed up for whether it was, Stefan Molyneux or Owen or anyone else on there. There's a bunch of cool people on there. If you could swing it, support more people you like, because obviously Instagram isn't the way to go, and even YouTube. My time is ticking on here too. TikTok. You can pay $10 a month to feel self-righteous like me, Dan Sack says. Yeah. It's not much. I mean, if I stopped drinking, like buying coffee, I've got a coffee problem. It doesn't matter where it's from. I make enough coffee at home, but if it's in front of me and there's a place, I'm a sucker for purchased coffee. So, I mean, pretty much that alone, I could support like 3 people a month easily on unauthorized. Considering the crap that you and I spend money on, and we know it's nonsense. I might delete Instagool. Yeah, I don't know how many versions I'm going to do. People are like, dude, set up your next, version 3. And I'm like, it's kind of fun doing it. I could see how setting up even like a secret made by Jim Bob might be fun. But the gig is already up. I mean, once you hit 100K, 110K, and then they're on to you, there's no point in building, like this goal of building back better on Instagram it's a silly idea. Even the campaigning for it, like, oh, Jim Bob got kicked off, share it, he's on Made by Jim Bob too. Yeah, I get the sentiment, but it's still within their playing field, so it doesn't make sense to do that. It only makes sense to do that is if the purpose is to aggregate the following again, and then transfer them over to not Instagram, because Instagram doesn't actually deserve the content or the following. They deserve neither. And so that's why it's exciting to be on, say, ArcTunes, doesn't have the same format as Instagram. The comment, it's not, I get it. Instagram is a cool, very useful, very user-friendly app. It's done purposefully for that reason. But that's why you go over to these other places. It's like, don't just refollow the account that gets banned. If they find another place to be that's safe from the Instagram commies, Insta-commies, then support them over there. And that's not just me. That's everybody. Anybody who gets booted and you realize, they're not going to stay. It's not going to work. The email is case sensitive on UA TV. Oh, the email, if you sign up on Unauthorized, it's case sensitive. So put it in all lowercase. IG is good for JB cartoons. It is. But you know what's better than IG for Jim Bob cartoons? Physical space. That's why I love doing paintings. That's why I made the book. Go get volume 3 if you didn't. That's why I tell people to print their own stickers. I know I'll sell some, but I have no problem with you printing your own stickers and putting them places. I mean, don't set up a store of Jim Bob meme stickers. But the physical space is really cool. I have a contact in Pennsylvania who might have some heavy access to the billboard world. That's exciting to me. I think a physical poster, a physical billboard is way more up my alley than Instagram. Instagram's cool, but it's so restrictive. Even if you have a big following, it's still restrictive. It keeps you in like this imaginary digital bubble. It's good for agreement, basically. But a billboard it's insanely provocative, especially if you can get into an area like Hollywood. You can really ruffle some feathers. Crowdfund. Yeah, we could definitely crowdfund. I mean, that's why it's good to know the other places. So in the event that I do get banned or even can't stream on Instagram or YouTube, again, I just got another video taken down on YouTube, so someone's going through some AI in a lab coat, some faceless AI algorithm who's wearing a lab coat. So that could happen too. So it's good to know where I am, where I'll be, and that's the way to do it. PA where? I'm not sure, actually. I think it's PA. Jim Bob, is music theory a scientific theory? I'm pretty sure it's not. No, music theory isn't scientific theory. No. Speaking of music theory, even though my teacher, Brett, who's, thank the Lord, is escaping New York City. God bless you, Brett. Next is have kids. Amazing guitarist, great teacher. I'm going to actually do physical private lessons to expand my finger picking and some of the theory around the gypsy style, the triads, the arpeggios, which lend themselves beautifully to classical music if you do some of those arpeggio riffs. I'm pretty excited about learning. I love learning. I love learning new skills. I love practicing. I love being challenged on new skills. If you're feeling a little frumpy, if you're feeling a little bit out of touch, slightly demoralized, a little tired, irritable, my recommendation is exercise, obviously, and above the health stuff, the obvious health stuff, my recommendation is to find a physical. I know well, am I resumed? What was I saying? Okay, exercise. They booted me off. Learn a skill in the physical. I know YouTube's great. You learn anything from some, instructor who made a great video. There's something about getting in the physical, though, that is cool. And so you know, my recommendation, if you're exhausted, tired, demoralized, beaten down, is to learn something or do a class, even if you're already intermediate or above intermediate at something. If you're a writer, do something that forwards what your craft is. I mean, that's really it at the base level. Basically inspire yourself, breathe life into your gifts. And that sometimes takes doing something that's not your ordinary thing, because it's just too easy to access information and to take classes from an unknowable teacher that doesn't even know you because they pre-recorded everything. I get that's all cool. It's cheap. It's easy. You can stay at home. I'm saying disrupt that. And go meet person to person with people to, do something. And so my version of that is taking classes. So on my Tuesdays, I will be at least starting for a month, taking one-on-one classes for guitar. And what's cool is that I'll be able to report to you guys, and you guys will start to see the difference in the playing, which is really cool to me, that it's not just me going through it. It's not just for me. As soon as you start promoting health, yeah, I know. They have a robot that's like, no. My skill is running up mountains. I have some polish here. Running up mountains while smoking a cigarette. Yeah, stop smoking. Stop smoking. Have you seen the movie Sweet and Lowdown? No. Is that about... Oh, yeah. Wasn't that Sean Penn? He plays... I don't know if is he playing Django? I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But I heard that Sean Penn actually learned... A lot of these actors, they really do the method fully, as they call it, and they become characters, and they actually learn some skills. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's at least one good symptom of being an actor, if you take it seriously, is that you can actually learn self-defense. You can learn how to shoot a gun properly. You can learn how to play guitar. You can learn how to skydive. You can learn how to rock climb. You can learn how to squirrel shoot. I mean, all variants derive from the gamma. He plays a fictional rival to Django. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'll watch that. I like that kind of stuff. This is a little much, Donald Trump says. How's the new guitar? It's amazing. It's loud. It's punchy. It's got like this very crisp sound to it. The Martin is softer. It's good for folk stuff, which is cool. This is because I had like one of those arch top or whatever guitars, and it was cool, but I went with the Parlor because you can still produce that sound. It's good for blues, and it really is good for that swing music as well. It's not as loud as a D shape hole standard gypsy. I don't like the shape of standard gypsy guitars. I don't like them. I don't like how they look. Bill the Butcher is one of my favorite. Yeah, he's pretty good. That guy is always doing some fun roles. I've abandoned my boy band. I've abandoned my boy band. I'm currently learning how to completely redo my backyard, irrigation level, and install pavers. Yeah, that's a big job. That's a massive job. Django Two Fingers dude. Yeah. The reason I probably do have I do have a, my dad's family's from Sicily, so I definitely have that gypsy grabbler in me. That's the 1/8 grabbler I do have. That might have something to do with how I'm drawn to gypsy jazz, but it's because I also suffered a massive hand injury in 2013 after playing guitar for, 15, 17 years. And what I did is I dropped a glass and I reacted and tried to catch it, but it broke on a table. And so my left hand went full speed, and I'm fast, right into the sharp piece of the glass, went right through my wrist, severed my median nerve. See that scar? Right through it. So even to this day, I can't fully feel my hand. And I also don't have certain grips because it's not connected to my brain. So I was, talk about depressed. I mean, learning guitar and playing and the joy of playing and getting better and better for that many years, and suddenly you have to restart everything and you're not even sure if you can do it. Discovering Django Reinhardt and the fact that he had a mutilated hand and he could play that fast and that quickly, and that he had that much understanding of the ear, of the sound, I was like, all right, no excuses. So it was pretty cool. Sicily, very much gabagool. Yeah, Sicily. And they came probably from Tunisia, right down there. Very greasy group. I went to Italy. I always had it in my mind, like Italy, it was like gangster. It was like, like Godfather and all this stuff. And then I went there and I didn't realize, like, I just didn't have the history or the geography down, that it's just basically Latin. It's basically, it's just basically Mexicans. They're just like Mexicans with a little more like, doppio macchiato, por favore, eh? Oh, quanto costo? Quanto costo? Molto, molto buen. Uno cappuccino, por favore. And I was just like, wow, they're so olivey and greasy. So I don't know. Anyway, my romanticism about my heritage, lineage, was kind of dampened. Even though I love the food and I love the experience, I love that they had 2,000-year-old buildings still up. But I was like feeling like, oh, I'm just kind of basically a Mexican. Like, the women here don't actually age beautifully. They all look like... Wait, all the Italian women look like Rod Stewart after 55? Wait, what? Ferrari Mexicans. That's funny. Mexicans yeah, they have good wine, definitely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Vox Day, he speaks Italian, and I think he lives in Italy. I'm not even sure. It's all a mystery to me. But I was telling him my proper name because it's required for the unauthorized thing. And he recognized it was Italian. Just literally means leather worker, by the way. And he spoke some Italian, and I was just like, he was like, oh, it's Italian. He said something like that, and I was like, And I was like, got all nervous, like, wait, do I pretend I know a little Italian? And then say, like, give me a cappuccino? Or just do I nervously laugh? And so he realizes that my Italian name is meaningless insofar as knowing Italian or somehow acquiring any of the heritage, customs, or language. Okay. But I could pick it up very quickly if I live there. I know that. I know that for sure.
Oh, siete bene, bete pai, ui, c'è la lume, mezzi mare, mamma mia, dare, vica mia culturale, mamma mia, petacciolo. Oh, Marie, in your arms, I'm longing to be. Baby. Oh. Itte bene, se bacalare mare day, eh? Itte vil, mitte mil, estremende fake mil. Oh, my, zoom, bacala.
Next time I talk to Vox and I'm going to be like, hey, I know we had that moment where you were like, oh, you have an Italian name? And then you said something. I felt a little nervous and I didn't know what to say. And, I felt pressure to be like, I know something. And then I didn't get the chance to do it. So I wanted to make it up to you and to myself. Oh, mama, vika via kukala. Oh, mama, batura. Right? Guys. Italian Peterson is like ciao is hello and goodbye. Italian Peterson is hilarious. It's like una cappuccino per favore, It's like they don't have regular coffee to go, Nobody has a to-go cup. They kind of just sit at the counters, And it's like, instead of doing lines of meth, they just do little shots of coffee, And it's like it's not even a break to them, They just sit there and they do it so quickly, It's like, ciao, bucko! Mama, the booty ba bo ba. Oh, mama, zoom, bakula. Jordan singing like Pavarotti. I bet Jordan listens to proper opera and he just weeps into a puddle. Just weeps into a puddle of powder. It's like quanto sera signorina moda sera, It's like, it's not just Pavarotti, it's that blind guy too. I forgot his name. But there's something about him being blind. I often wonder what the archetype is for blind musicians and why there are so many famous blind musicians. And it makes you wonder if it's actually something that they're just tapping into as a marketing ploy. Of course, you can't go up to someone and ask and challenge them on their blindness, now can you? But why not? It's like some of them had, very tumultuous lives, It's like you think of Stevie Wonder or Ray Charles, and you hear about how they had a lot of scuffles at home. And it's like, try to imagine that, bucko. It's like if you're going to beat your wife, you gotta know where she is, Andrea Bocelli, yeah, that guy. It's like Bocelli, It's like F Pavarotti, We've got Bocelli, When I watch him, I'm moved, of course, by the music, But I'm also moved by something else, that he's blind. And it reminds me, and it should remind us all, that we're all a little bit blind, It's like, it's not only important to know where your monster is, but it's important to know when you've been blinded by something, My favorite movie is Mrs. Doubtfire. It's like where the oily pores in the leather meet. Yes, that's what Italy is to me, It's a lot of skin. It's a lot of leather. It's a lot of very tacky clothing, Is it okay to eat a horse? Well, yes. In fact, it's quite common. You just, if you live in the Western world, you're just not privy to it, how common it actually is, It's like the question isn't, is it okay to eat a horse, The question is, what part of the horse isn't okay to eat, This is proper philosophy. It's like, have you ever had a raw slab of horse hoof? Or tendon? The one in the back leg that you can see, the striations? When push comes to shove, when starvation hits, I tell you what, I've got a sawzall ready to cut that fucker out. You know. Taliban. I wonder if the Taliban would have put up. No, he'd be done. I think the Taliban is basically a improv troupe you can rent. So like the media and politics, it's all a stage. They're all actors. Well, why do we think the Taliban is like a real thing? Like, maybe they do some stuff, but I think they're mostly supported by all sorts of governments. And they're on call, like a retainer, like Brett, where they're like, hey, guys, guess what? We're going to start pushing the narrative that opposing COVID is terrorism, potentially. And so can we run a little editorial with the troop, Can we run a little a media blitz with the Taliban? Can we get the Taliban to oppose all of this nonsense? That would be good. Because then we can associate anyone in America or Canada or anywhere else, their views, their opposition to COVID nonsense, to mandatory V's and whatnot. Oh, we'll just say, oh, you guys, you sound like the Taliban now. You sound like the Taliban now. The Taliban was the first Karunka. Taliban represented the enemy that could be anywhere. Just listen to the intelligence agencies. Well, our intelligence agencies are saying that there are some cells in Philadelphia and some cells out there in Newport Beach. And because of that intel, we are justified to implement any measures we prefer. And you just have to believe the sources, the same sources who told Congress that there are weapons of mass destruction, which is the the Karunka before the Karunka. But now, our new intelligence agency are people in lab coats who run simulations on a computer and tell you that maybe there's a spike out there in Portland area, out in Maine. Oh, we got a big spike going on around here. And then, implement the same anti-terrorist, war on terror. Yeah, war on terror. Well, fool me once, war on terror. Terror. It's funny, we've been terrorized for a year and a half. It's the same thing over and over again. They do stuff, and then they restructure it using their little media arm, their little bullhorn, and then they present it onto you what they've just been doing for the last year and a half, which is pure terrorism. Noah's Reagan hunting down commies in Hollywood. Yeah, I mean, how far back can we go? Probably way back into the Bible. Do it in the NPR voice. Biden's intelligence administration has informed him and his government officials that there has been a massive spike in spike proteins in all of the people who got jabby jabs. We'll be back. This is Anti-American Life with Lakshmi Shmams. This is good morning. This is NPR with another episode of We Hate Ourselves with Padma Wondergorstein. Padma Wondergorstein out of Brooklyn, New York, doing a special on the great spike in COVID Delta variant among none other than a ultimate frisbee group that meets at 5 a.m. For the fear of ridicule for being the first non-binary lesbian frisbee team. After these messages, we'll be back with global news with Palenka Fichterplot. Ultimate Trans Frisbee Golf Group met up in Grand Central Station for a surprise meet and greet and competition. The competition event was quickly shut down by authorities because it transgressed against the priesthood that suggested that COVID is on the rise, especially among people who throw frisbees together. Lakshmi? Sponsored by the Rockefeller Foundation, the Andrew G. MacArthur Foundation, and all of the other NGO foundations that basically promote mass-scale propaganda to your feeble little ignorant ears. Thank you for listening. Again, we're completely user-supported, so we need your $2 a month because the Rockefeller Foundation funds are just not cutting it. We need your monthly, this is a subscriber-based radio show, even though we're sponsored by the Rockefeller Foundation, which is equivalent to believing that selling mugs is what keeps your business alive on YouTube. Dummies. Again,
We hate to do this to you. We know it's the most annoying part of our show where we ask you for money. Please send in a donation. Anything helps. Keeps us on the air. By the way, we're sponsored by the Rockefeller Foundation. You stupid people.
Agent Bob Glenbeck left a little something on your chin there. Where? That's a lot of comments, Mr. and Mrs. Cheese. A lot of the same comments. We saw the one. Do I believe in flat? No, I don't know what shape the Earth is, to be strictly honest. But flat isn't a shape. What does an NGO even do? A non-government organization? It's exactly the opposite. A non-government organization is just the wraparound government. It's just the government given a wraparound or putting on a glove. That's a government putting on a glove that's called a non-government glove. And it's just like, I'm an NGO. It's a non-government organization. It's a That's how you know it's a lie. They name things the opposite. Peace process, all of these things are named the opposite. Black power. Black power is black powerlessness. That's what that is all about. Metal polish on your nose? Yeah. Have you got the P900? I do. I have a P900. It's awesome. Some of the moon video I got is insane. Identified as a realm earther. Well, it's totally possible that, I forgot what it's called. My friend Brendan sent me something. He's way smarter than me. About that it's actually possible for an endless shape to occur. Basically a plane, an endless plane, but it's not plane in the way you think a plane is a plane, because it's basically approaching something from a perspective that's not supported by everything we know in the physical, if that makes sense. So it's like, if something's indiscernible in the physical reality, the way we discern a car or a banana or whatever, then you can't use the same rules necessarily to discern the thing that's indiscernible in the same way. So it's the same concept as all things are not proven the same way. There are metaphorical truths. There are truths, obviously, that exist outside of the scientific method. And so I think when you get into some other, it's not another dimension. I wouldn't call it another dimension. Get into another aspect of reality that's beyond the scale that we're permitted. And that's what basically all of space is. We're dealing with scales that are not reproducible. And that's back to another topic I had in a previous stream, was just that the mass deception is possible at the level, because it's at the level where you don't have a reference point. So you can lie about space. You can even lie about the ocean. You can lie about anything mass hysteria currently, is so long as it's at a scale that the ordinary person or even groups of people, they have no reference point. They can't point to the opposite being true. They can't reference a version of something that's real to measure against the fake one. You can't point to a real moon landing to show that the fake one was fake. because it's all operating at a scale that's beyond your ability to provide references for. And that's the trick. That's the trick. So I think because of that, you can lie about the celestial bodies. You can lie about or present models and even convincing models of our knowable universe or observable universe, but there's no way to verify it. And by the way, especially under the paradigm of relativism, that there is no actual static, unmoving location in all of existence, that it's all relative, that inside of what we call space and time is actually bending. And in what space and time did you determine that space and time is bending? To measure space and time bending, you would need space and time to be constant to know that what you were measuring was accurate. Not only that, you'd need space and time not bending to measure it against space and time bending, which is why it's total nonsense. Can't be verified. It's bullshit. Oh, Jim Bob, greetings from the depths of South Africa. Dig your work, keep on crushing. Hey, thank you, from South Africa. Hey, you have a buddy out there in South Africa named Faces of the Unvaccinated? Sorry, that's a little New Zealand. I apologize. I'm not saying you guys are the same. I just can't do as South African. Can't do it. Now, see? Now it's Irish. We'll do it live. Would light bend? Light couldn't do anything in said space. Gravity, an invisible force, bendy space-time, or gravitation, it's all crap. Yeah, they change it all the time. You're like, why does a balloon float up? And they're like, well, because it's stronger than the gravity. You're like, gravity's not a force. Yeah, but it has to be in this case. So when things don't fall, gravity's a force that's weak. When it does fall, it's a force, but it's also technically, by definition, not a force. What? You're like, why does a balloon float up? Why do gases expand in every direction? And gases have mass, and balloons, and they go against gravity. So what's happening? Oh, duh, Jim Bob, duh. The balloon, it's stronger than the force of gravity. What's the force of gravity? It's like 9.8 meters per square falling down. No, that's not the force of gravity. That's the observable speed at which something falls without air in the way, without gas in the way, without mass in the way. So what are you talking about? So things fall, gravity equals things falling at 9.8 meters per second. But the reason there are things that don't fall at 9.8 meters per second is because the thing that's not falling at 9.8 meters per second is stronger than the force. What force? 9.8 meters per second. So the thing that's floating is stronger. What's causing it to float is stronger than the effect. Nonsense. Scientific mastermind manipulation since Einstein. Making people actually not think and use their brain. Like forget people believing COVID. Forget people believing in all sorts of nonsense narratives. They're operating still under a fundamental lie that's not provable and not scientific at all. Well, you don't believe in gravity now? No. The fact that you have to ask me if I believe in something means that it's faithful to begin with. So if it's a scientific claim, now if you're going to say it's a metaphysical claim and you can't ever prove it, great, at least you're honest. But you're not. You're saying it's provable. It's not. It's not true, Bob. Look it up. There are ways it would bend. What? No, in space. In said space, not here. You can reflect light. But the thing they know, everything they think they know about light is obviously wrong too. I mean, they thought the speed of light was a constant, and then it changed. How could you be like, the speed of light's a constant, and then it changes, the constant changes? That's not the speed of light. And the fact that, you know, if you shoot light through something that slows the light down, when the light reaches the end of it, it speeds back up. That's not consistent with everything we know about said light and physics. They're just not honest about what they don't know. Globe model is the most comprehensive explanation of the state of things in one. Does not require. Yeah, it does. You can't even prove any of it. So that requires 100% faith, dude. You can't prove it. When you prove something, also, what's proof? It's like, what are you talking about? There's no, it's the shape of anything is not a scientific claim to begin with. That's not the, science is about observing something, an effect, having an effect that you can observe, and then basically doing an experiment to determine what's causing the effect by inserting an independent variable and removing it and inserting it and seeing if it causes and the effect or not. Even that's not definite. It's close to definite. We know that if we eat certain things and we die, that's the thing that's probably causing the death, like poisons. That's science. That's cause and effect. Dark matter isn't real at all. There's nothing real about dark matter. I think John Tom is just a troll because he's just saying stuff and he has no evidence. There's nothing supporting. Dark matter is a reification fallacy, misplaced concreteness. It was invented as a net, a safety net to a pre-existing theory. So if a theory is flawed, adding in an imaginary variable to complete the theory is called pseudoscience. There's nothing scientific about dark matter. Dark matter doesn't matter. There's no matter. Dude, it's a theory. No, it's not a theory. There's no theory about dark matter at all. You don't know what a theory is. You don't know what a scientific theory is. You're going to get demolished in here, kid. You just don't understand it. Yeah, that's a really unique position. No, there's nothing to understand because there's no property to it. Just like there's no property to space and time. There's no property, there's nothing observable about dark matter at all. There's not even a theory. There's no theory to dark matter at all. It's literally like, there must be something else out there. Let's invent dark matter. According to the Big Bang, we needed this much energy to justify the observable movement and expansion of stars. Oh, looks like we don't have enough energy. Someone write down a thing. Okay, let's write down dark matter. And people like John will recite it and barf it out like a parrot without thinking. If we introduce to the stupid people that there is something called dark matter that supports the current theory that they already accept just based on us saying it, it will further add to the the justification of further nonsense. It's like, dude, you're not thinking. You're not thinking. Black holes matter. Black holes matter. Idea is that gravitational force. No, dude, you can't even start with gravitational force. You're already assuming something that's not proven. Oh, let's just say gravitational force. What's that? I don't know. There's no force. What are you talking about? Gravitational force. What is gravity? You're going to use both now? When you ask someone what gravity is, they go, well, it's like, you know, like masses attract mass. And you're like, that's Newton. What about the other gravity? Well, that too. I mean, there's so many cool gravities. It's like, no. Einsteinian gravity superseded Newtonian. So you got to scrap Newtonian and you got to go with bendy space-time. Now, prove that space bends. Prove that time bends. No, dude, you don't understand it. It's a gravitational force. What gravitational force? No, dude, gravity is real because of the gravitational force. I just asked you to prove what gravity is. And you're going, it's proven because of the gravitational force. This is how stupid people are now. 72 gravities, exactly. You can't just say similar, because electromagnetic force is, you can actually play with it. You can introduce it, you could remove it, you could observe it, you could do all sorts of stuff with electromagnetism. You could actually do science with electricity and magnetism. You can't do that with gravity, okay? So what you're doing is just piggybacking over something that exists, that produces a phenomenon that you can experiment with, actual experimentation, and then you're just going like, well, no, gravity's like that too. No, you can't say gravity's like anything because you can't even tell me what gravity is. You throw something up, it comes down. Yeah, that's not gravity. That's an effect. You throw up an helium balloon, it doesn't come down. You throw up a paper airplane, it doesn't come right down. So, no, throwing something in the air and watching it drop is not proof of gravity at all. Not even close. Makes more sense to call it magnetism due to electric power. Well, we have electricity. The earth is charged. There's static electricity. There's all sorts of stuff. There's dielectricity. There's magnetism. You can manipulate stuff, okay? That's what Tesla was all about. Tesla wasn't dropping stuff. He wasn't dropping apples. What do you call it then? You call that an effect, but it's not even a part. It's not even a bias effect, though. You call dropping stuff an effect. What do you call gas rising? Okay, if gas rises against gravity, if a balloon rises, if a hot air balloon rises against what you call gravity, the effect of something falling, you don't say something's causing it. You say gas rises. It's a law. Well, it's rising. What causes a water bottle with air to rise up to the surface? Buoyancy, density, relative to the water. So we have the same answers for things floating up to the sky, but when it defies the gravity, you're just like, no, it's just buoyancy and density. When it's consistent with said unproven force, then it's suddenly a force. But then it's not a force. It suddenly disappears when you need it to. It's absurd. You guys haven't thought about this. You're just saying stuff. You're like, oh, duh, the rock fell. No, a rock fell. That's what you observed. You observed something falling. You didn't prove what's causing it to push down at all. So your issue with calling it gravity is that it presumes an understanding of it when it can't actually be proven? Yeah, you can't call it anything. You call it an effect. Now, people who are honest could say, well, yeah, you're right. We just observe an effect and we call it gravity. But once you define gravity, you realize that's retarded, because gravity, the current definition, is the bending of space-time. The bending of space-time causes the bowling ball and the feather to fall at the same rate if you remove air? What? That doesn't prove anything. That's just a claim, and it's unfounded, and you can't prove it. It's just not, you're just calling something something. You could just call it an effect. We could call it unicorn fart. Unicorn farts. There's unicorn fart thing, and it's what's causing the bottle to fall down. Electromagnetism doesn't exist. Electromagnetism doesn't exist? Okay. Okay, you just don't like to answer my question because you're not smart enough? No, you're doing a bunch of rainbows, John Tom. That's not a question. All I see is rainbows. And you're removed. The unicorns are everywhere, invisible, and they fart downward. But they don't care about helium, though, because helium is like, the kryptonite to unicorn farts. They're just like, they're farting, and like Don Lemon's riding them. And then he's just like, fart, make it, things fall. And then they're like, and he's like, what? Cause the gravity, cause it. And they're like, he's like, what are you saying? Oh, there's helium. Let's get out of here. Like, let's get out of here. Johnny Tom is a troll. Oh, he's still here? Well, let me see. There you go. Oh, it's put user in. Okay, yeah, put user in timeout. There you go. Dawkins, how much gravity would it take to keep you away from eating a Haitian boy's arm?
Well, no amount of gravity, yeah? If little Haitian boys are on the ground and I am floating, it's the exact amount of gravity that gets me down to the ground, yeah? Yeah.
Gravity is riddled with false prevalence. Yeah, I mean, let's just close out with this. Most importantly, there's no evidence of gravity. You can't prove it. It's not scientific. It's not a scientific theory. There never was a scientific theory. There was never an experiment that proved and demonstrated gravity. Okay? That's the most important thing. That should end it all right there. Are you seeing things don't fall? No, that's an effect. Second, if said gravity is stronger toward the center, if it's strongest at the surface, I jump and go back down. Oh, it's because gravity is spinning and it's a mass and it's pulling downward, pulling you down. Okay, so I weigh 170, it's pulling me down. Helium is lighter, and it's floating up, and this strong gravity at the surface is not pulling helium down. Now you go up to the said end of the Earth's atmosphere, sphere, gas, shape. Gases don't have shapes. They don't have shapes. But that's side note. Anyway, science, Neil Tyson's mustache says, that gravity is strongest where you're standing. Gravity is weaker the farther you go up, okay? The farther you go up, the weaker the gravity. Okay, so what's the barrier or force or wall that's keeping the pressurized system called your atmosphere in place and not escaping into the abyss, the negative pressure or whatever, the vacuum? Well, gravity. Okay, so gravity can't keep a helium balloon down at the surface at its strongest point, but it can keep the entirety of a pressurized system of gas in place at its weakest. Yeah. Don't ask questions. It's so dumb. I mean, think about that. Really think about that. Gravity, where it's allegedly strongest, can't keep a helium balloon down, but where it's at its weakest can keep the entire pressurized atmosphere in place from escaping into the vacuum, which is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. You just don't understand, Jen Bob. No, I understand, and that's the problem. Anyone who does understand would have a problem with that. No, it's an invisible, strong, well, smear stash. So dumb. Explain density? No, Ninja. You explain what I just said. Why at gravity's strongest point can it not keep a helium balloon down, but at its weakest point keep the entirety of the pressurized atmosphere in place from escaping into the fucking vacuum of space, violating the second law of thermodynamics? You tell me. Gravity coming to get me. If gravity was so real, you wouldn't need 5 movies every year coming out to try to support NASA and gravity. Okay? They know something else. I think they're just lying. Like there's a lot of reasons to lie, but I think they understand something else. Vacuum doesn't exert force. No, it doesn't exert force, but gases escape and seek equilibrium. So if you want to do a test on what gases do, fill up a chamber with gas, make a valve, make an empty chamber with a vacuum, and then open the valve and see how fast the gas goes into that valve, into that other container. Container, by the way. You know what a container is? It's an area, a contained area. You know what pressure is? Force dividing area. It's a gradient. That doesn't say anything. It doesn't matter if there's a gradient. Gases are produced at the surface. They rise. Gases seek equilibrium. They will fill in available space, especially a vacuum. Doesn't matter if there's a gradient. You still need a container. You can't have a gradient. You can't measure a gradient without a container. What's the container? It's gravity. Gravity. You haven't thought about this, Ninja of Spades. Pressure gradient. Doesn't matter. Pressure. Pressure. Press against. Container. You can't have air pressure or gas pressure without a container. You can't even discern it. Can't measure it. What's a container? Gravity. Haven't you listened to John Mayer? Come on, Ninja, just say it. It's science, exactly. No, Ninja hasn't thought about this stuff. He's just saying the things that you say. Yeah, it's a gradient. It's a gradient. It's a gradient. So where there's gas and there's a gradient, that means gases suddenly don't act like gases when they're literally adjacent to a vacuum. So there's this gradient and it frizzes out and then the gases are just, they frizz out and it's frayed and then they're next to the vacuum and it's just kind of, yeah. It's just, like there's not like a hard stop of where the gases end and the vacuum begins. And the gases just, You know, because if there's a gradient, then gases actually don't behave consistent with the second law at all. You know, high pressure to low pressure, just the whole law goes away because of the gradient. It's science, you guys. No, you sound ridiculous. Same reason we weigh less at high elevation? No. That's not the same reason. What are you talking about? Now you're just doing red herrings. Dummy. Anyway, I gotta go. Ninja, come back next stream. There's plenty of time and plenty of information and plenty of things you need to consider, because all of your positions are sit on massive assumptions that you haven't actually proven, that no one has. All assumptions. There's no pressure at max elevation. It doesn't matter. There's always pressure. What do you mean there's no pressure? There's a perfect vacuum at highest maximum elevation. What's maximum elevation, dude? You don't know what the hell you're talking about. No, that's not even true. That's not even true. This said space vacuum isn't even said to be a perfect vacuum. So you're saying the pressure is absolutely zero at the maximum altitude. What's the maximum altitude? If it's a gradient, what's the maximum altitude? Tell me the maximum altitude. What height does the end of our atmosphere, where does our atmosphere end and where does space begin according to maximum height? Because according to science, the moon, which is 273,000 miles away, is also in the Earth's atmosphere. We didn't know that. It's insane, dude. The edge of the atmosphere. Yeah, you keep talking about edging. That's meaning, what's the edge of the atmosphere if the moon is in our atmosphere, bucko? You're not caught up on your scientism. You're going against your priests right now. What's the edge of the atmosphere if the moon's in our atmosphere? It's the edge. It's the edge. The Kármán line? No, it's not. That's when they say space begins. They also say the atmosphere continues on to the moon, okay? No, they call something space. They arbitrarily decided that space is at a certain height. You're appealing to that certain height and calling it the end of the atmosphere, but that's inconsistent with the same space knuckleheads that are telling you what to say. You're not looking up. You're not looking into this stuff. Anyway, I gotta go.